Mangwana ni malelepo vukenjani class wanave Africa. Welcome to Africa. Good morning. The news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent beyond and beyond. Rather, you are joined by Ashwin Berry and Glenora Shapura. How are you, Glenora?
I'm doing quite well. How are you, Ashwin?
I am fantastic, and not just because, but mainly because in 2 weeks, yeah. 8 February, NTV turns 1, and you have an opportunity to celebrate with us. All you have to do is scan the QR code in the Algemene Zeitung, Namibian Sun and Republican. Answer the question that is there. You stand a chance to win a DSTV Explorer, a dish kit, or a GoTV decoder, or a 3,000 Namibian dollar Foschini group shopping voucher. So by all means, celebrate with NTV.
Now, those sounds like amazing prizes. I would like a DSTV Explorer.
Yeah, so you can watch yourself.
I can watch myself and pause and rewind and, you know. Well, Ashwin, I understand that you were a teacher at some point in your career.
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years? Yes. Wow, impressive. Yeah. And today is International Day of Education.
All right, we love that. We love education.
Well, UN member states recognize the importance of working to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education at all levels so that all people may have access to lifelong learning opportunities that help them to acquire the knowledge and skills needed to access opportunities and to participate fully in society and contribute to sustainable development. Let's take a look at this video on International Day of Education.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. Heading into the top stories, laboratories in Kenya and Tanzania are training rats to detect tuberculosis. In laboratories in Tanzania and Nairobi, rats have been trained to sniff out tuberculosis. Already known for finding landmines, the rodents could now transform the way the disease is detected. The African giant pouched rats work with scientists at the Apopo Project, a Belgian non-profit organization in Tanzania, because they can detect the smell of the deadly disease. A study conducted by Apopo in 2016 compared the accuracy of the rats to that of standard methods used in laboratories, such as smear microscopy, bacteria culture tests, and GenExpert, a rapid test for tuberculosis. Joseph Soka, program manager for TB at Apopo, said the sensitivity of these rats is as high as compared to microscopes, and as compared to other tests, their sensitivity is independent of HIV status. Many developing countries heavily rely on old TB detection techniques that entail the use of microscopes to examine the sputum of potentially infected patients. Daval Shah, veterinary pathologist at Pathologists Lancet Kenya, said rats can speed up the process.
Moving on, in a rather sad development, fury after Eswatini activist is gunned down at home. Many human rights campaigners, including opposition groups in Eswatini, have expressed their outrage on social media platforms following the brutal murder of a prominent pro-democracy activist in the Southern African Kingdom. Thulani Maseko founded a coalition of parties and had been calling for reforms. He was sitting in his living room at home with his family on Sunday in the town of Luyengo when gunmen shot him through a window. The Secretary General of Amnesty International, Agnes Callamard, said she was deeply saddened and angry, while Clement Woll, the UN Special Reporter on Freedom of Association, called on the government to ensure a thorough investigation into the murder. Eswatini government spokesperson Alpheus Ngumolo has rejected insinuations of the government's involvement in the killing. That is a far-fetched reality and statement. The government takes every life very seriously, including that of Thulani Maseko. This insinuation is rejected as it is being projected by those who are actually jumping all investigative mechanisms that we have put in place, he told South African public broadcaster SABC. Now, over the last 2 years, there have been waves of pro-democracy protests in Eswatini, the continent's last absolute monarchy. Security forces in the country have frequently used excessive force to break up protests. Just last week, the opposition accused King Mzwati III of hiring South African mercenaries to attack activists, which officials denied.
Now, Burkina Faso's military government has ordered hundreds of French troops to leave the country within 1 month. National broadcaster RTB made the announcement on Saturday, citing the official agence d'Information du Burkina. The news agency said the decision had been made Wednesday last week to end the presence of France's military on Burkinabe soil. The move comes 5 months after France completed its withdrawal from Mali after 9 years fighting Islamist rebels alongside regional troops. After the second coup there last year, anti-French protesters began urging the junta to instead strengthen ties with Russia. But Mali has already hired Russian mercenaries from the Wagner Group, who have been accused of widespread human rights abuses there and elsewhere. Over 60 years after Burkina Faso's independence, France has maintained strong economic and humanitarian aid ties with its former colony. Saturday's announcement was welcomed by those who had lost patience with France.
Ramaphosa changes tune and asks Eskom to halt 18.65% NERSA hike. South Africans will be hoping that Eskom's board accedes to President Cyril Ramaphosa's request not to implement the power tariff increase of 18.65% granted by the National Energy Regulator of South Africa earlier this month. Ramaphosa made the comments during his closing address at the African National Congress Free State Conference in Maungang on Sunday. Eskom had initially applied for a 32% tariff increase for the 2023 to 2024 financial year and an additional 22.52% in 2024 to 2025. The ailing power utility was looking to recover 351 billion rands through the tariff hike in 2023 to 2024 and had planned to recover 381 billion rands the following financial year. Now, households and businesses already buckling under the devastating impact of load shedding will feel the pinch when the change takes effect at the beginning of April. While Ramaphosa initially said his hands are tied on NERSA's decision to hike electricity prices, the president has now changed his tune. Meanwhile, Eskom has announced that generation units at power stations have failed to come back online. Eskom spokesperson Sikonati Monsancha made the announcement early on Monday morning.
Now, Islamist fighters set off a bomb, then stormed the government building in Somalia's capital on Sunday, killing at least 5 civilians, the Ministry of Information said. Attackers from the Al-Shabaab group charged into the block that houses the office of Mogadishu's mayor around noon and got caught in a firefight with security forces, the ministry and witnesses said. Al-Shabaab has stepped up attacks in a show of resilience since President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed's government launched an offensive against Al-Qaeda-linked group in August. Abdi Kadir Abdi Rahman, director of Amnin Ambulance Services, gave a higher estimate of the death count, saying it had transported the bodies of 8 civilian victims. At least another 16 people were injured in the attack, he added. Roads in the area have concrete barriers and multiple roadblocks. The building is about 1.5 kilometers away from Villa Somalia, the president's office. Al-Shabaab said in a statement its suicide bombers struck, then foot fighters entered the building after killing the building guards.
Wrapping up our top stories, China reports nearly 13,000 COVID deaths over the last week. China reported nearly 13,000 COVID-related deaths in hospitals between January 13 and 19, after a top health official said the vast majority of the population has already been infected by the virus. China a week earlier said nearly 60,000 people had died with COVID in hospitals as of January 12. But there has been widespread skepticism over official data since Beijing abruptly axed antivirus controls last month. Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention said in a statement on Saturday that 681 hospitalized patients had died of respiratory failure caused by coronavirus infection and 11,977 had died of other diseases combined with an infection over the period. Now, the figures do not include those who died from the virus at home. Airfinity, an independent forecasting firm, has estimated daily COVID deaths in China will peak at around 36,000 over the lunar year. Over the lunar holiday, rather. The firm also estimated that more than 600,000 people have died from the disease since China abandoned the zero COVID policy in December.
That brings us to the end of our top stories on Africa. Good morning. Stay with us as we have a conversation with Mike Sichula about the news on the ground in Zambia after the break.
NMH at 1 brings you news from all across Namibia. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact NMH1 at synergy.com.na. NMH at 1, your lunchtime news companion.
You are still with Africa. Good morning. We're now going to talk to Mike Sichula in Zambia as we find out the news on the ground. Mike Urubanji.
Tiribuino Mulibanji, Africa, good morning.
Tiribuino. Now, your first story. Visiting IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva has issued the Zambian government of the fund support to help resolve the country's outstanding external debt. Could you please talk to us?
Yes. The Zambian government owes the international community close to 33.3 billion United States dollars. So the visiting IMF boss has assured the new administration that the fund is equal to help Zambia resolve the debt situation. So the IMF boss is in the country, and yesterday she met President Hakainde Hichilema at State House, where she says the IMF is working tirelessly in a bid to help Zambia resolve its debt situation with its creditors. The IMF she also expressed confidence in the manner Zambia is managing public resources. She did also allude to the fact that Zambia is putting money to good use by investing in areas such as education and social protection. Then she also went on to say that the IMF is happy with the economic reforms that Zambia has embarked on, and she is expecting that the debt situation that has engulfed Zambia is going to be resolved through the discussions that the IMF, the Zambian government are having with Zambia's creditors. So amongst those creditors is China, which is owed over 6.6 billion United States dollars. So it is expected that this visit is going to culminate into a situation that will have a clear roadmap in terms of Zambia having to clear its debt. However, her visit has also attracted demands from the opposition Patriotic Front Party to ask the IMF boss to apologize to Zambians on what they term the bad economic policies, such as the structural adjustment program that was initiated during the MMD administration that saw a number of our private companies sold and leading to many people becoming jobless.
Now, in a related development, United States Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has encouraged Zambia to apply to access part of the $450 million pandemic fund. Can you get into the story?
Yes. Also, the U.S. State Secretary has also met President Hakainde Hichilema yesterday at State House. She did say that the funding will help Zambia and other developing countries boost their health security system and strengthen their preparedness for disease. And she also said that Zambia should ensure that they invest in global health security, so that the cost of addressing pandemics is mitigated or reduced. Then she has also taken time off a visit to Zambia to visit one of the projects that the U.S. Embassy is implementing in Zambia, which is called the Emergency Operations Center at the Zambia National Public Health Institution in Lusaka. So this visit is one of those that President Hichilema and the Minister of Finance says it is a mark of showing confidence in the new administration in how they're handling local and international matters.
All right. Now, an alliance promoting electric vehicles has called on authorities to consider revising taxes on their importation. And if you could, after that, get into the story of residents in flood-prone settlements across the country being in fear of the weather forecast.
Yes. The Zambia Electric Mobility Innovation Alliance says it is engaging the Ministry of Finance to consider revising taxes on the importation of electric vehicles. Alliance president says the importation of electric vehicles is currently expensive, hence only 35 electric vehicles are in the country. So this Mr. Muhau says Zambia is shifting electric vehicles will help the country save on foreign exchange because currently it spends about $1.2 billion on fuel consumption. And our viewers may wish to know that Zambia produces key components of batteries that are used in the manufacturing of electric vehicles. Then moving on to the story that talks about residents in flood-prone areas being concerned. In the last 3, 4, 5 days, Zambia has experienced heavy downfalls that has resulted into some roads becoming impassable, houses being damaged, crops being submerged, and as you can see from that picture there, that those are the floods that has affected one of the major roads in Zambia leading into the central province of Zambia. You can see there in the picture the bridge almost being washed away. So these rains have raised concerns amongst members of the public who have called on authorities to prepare adequately to see how these things can be managed in future.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike, for bringing us the news stories from Zambia.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning.
Now let's take a look at the weather predictions for Southern Africa.
Heading into economic news, EAC exports to Africa soared to $7.9 billion in 2021. Exports from the East African Community Bloc to Africa soared to $7.9 billion in 2021 in spite of COVID-19's impact. They comprised a 42% share of the region's total exports of goods to the world, which was $18.7 billion during the period. Top EAC exports to Africa included precious stones, coffee, tea, cement, animal fats, mineral oils, and iron and steel. Now, it was organized by the East African Business Council, an apex body of private sector associations in collaboration with GIZ, a German aid agency. Speaking during the event, EABC Executive Director John Bosco Kalisa said intra-Africa goods exports reached $82.2 billion in 2019. This was all revealed in Kigali, Rwanda last week during a private sector sensitization workshop of African Continental Free Trade Area.
Angola among countries with projections of growth in the automotive industry. Angola is in the list of the few countries in Africa with great prospects for growth in the automotive industry in 2023 due to the investments that are being made in this segment of mechanical engineering. According to a study by Economist Intelligence, the automotive and light manufacturing industry is predicted to be one of the main sectors in Africa to record significant growth in 2023, driven by factors including sustained domestic demand for vehicles and regional trade. The study also includes improvements in foreign investments and global value chain integration, as well as the implementation of key supporting policies. As Africa focuses on industrialization and job creation, a growing number of multinational vehicle manufacturers have identified the continent as an opportunity for growth and are establishing factories in Angola, Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, and South Africa, reads a study released on Friday.
All right, let's head into the economic indicators just before sport with Ari. There's a real reason Glenora and I stick to the broadcasting of the news top stories, because I, for one, am still talking about Arsenal. But Ari's got the current sports news. Have a look.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with the Australian Open tennis tournament that continues. It is week 2, leading up to the finals this coming weekend. And in the men's draw, it was fourth round action, and Andrei Rublev of Russia came through, and he's through to the quarterfinals. He beat Holger Rune. He's just 19 years old, from Denmark, in a very exciting and a very close game in 5 sets. It was a 6-3, 3-6, 6-3, and then 4-6 and 7-6 the tiebreak in the fifth set. Fifth set, it was 11-9 in that fifth set tiebreak. Andrei Rublev going through, and both players had 2 match points leading up to the tiebreak, and it was Rublev coming through in the end. Also in the men's division, it is Yuri Lebesha. He is from Chechnya that keeps on surprising. He's number 71 in the world. He's now through to the quarterfinals. Just eight players in the quarterfinals, and he beat number 6 seed Felix Auger-Aliassime of Canada. The score there was 4-6, 6-3, 7-6 and 7-6. Another player from Chechnya is Karolina Pliskova. She's also through to the quarterfinals in the women's section, and she beat China's Zhang Shui, and the score there was 6-love and 6-4. Earlier also another unseeded Magda Linette. She's from Poland. She beat one of the highest seed players, the 4th seed Caroline Garcia of France, by 7-6 and 6-4. Southern African interest is only left in the doubles. It is South Africa's Raven Klaasen and Lloyd Harris. They also through to the 4th round. They beat Granelis and Zellerbos. They from Argentina and Spain respectively, and they through to the 4th round in the doubles. On to some hockey news. It's the World Cup hockey that continues for men. That's in India. Big news from the tournament is that host India knocked out of the tournament, and they didn't qualify for the quarterfinals. They lost to New Zealand in a crossover game. It was 3-all on normal time, and then 5-4 on penalties. A very close game won by New Zealand. They through to the quarterfinals, where they will face Belgium. Also through to the quarterfinals is Spain, that beat Malaysia, and they also beat them on penalties, also 4-3 in penalties after being 2-all in normal time. Spain will play Australia in the quarterfinals. 2 other games to be played in the crossovers to qualify for the quarterfinals will be Germany, that will face France. The winner go through to the quarterfinals, and also Argentina playing Korea for a place in the quarterfinals. Already through to the quarterfinals, awaiting one of these 2 teams is Netherlands and England. Continuing international sports news with netball news, an exciting tournament taking place in Cape Town, South Africa International Tournament. It's the Quad Series Netball. The 3 best teams in the world, it is England and Australia and New Zealand, playing against host South Africa in Cape Town. It was an exciting second round of games. It was South Africa that played to a 46-all draw. That was against England, a great result for South Africa. And it was Australia that beat New Zealand by 59 goals to 57, also a close game in the end. On Tuesday, it will be South Africa that play Australia, tough game for them, and then New Zealand will face England. South Africa lost their first game against New Zealand, and it's good preparation for the World Cup women's netball that's going to take place in South Africa later this year. Closing off today's international sports news with golf news on the men's PGA tournament. It was the American Express, played in America, and it was John Rahm that came through with a win, 68 in the last round for a total of -27. And Dave.
Let's head into the highlights from this morning's broadcast. Laboratories in Kenya and Tanzania train rats to detect tuberculosis. Fury after Eswatini activist is gunned down at home. Burkina Faso's military leader demands French departure. EAC exports to Africa soared to $7.9 billion in 2021. Those have been our stories. And
with that, we've come to the end of our show. Do remember that Africa Good Morning is repeated on our One Up 2 website, our DSTV channel 285, and our GoTV channel 94. I am Glenn Rashipura.
And I am Ashwin Berry. Swera Jakanaka.